You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Well, have you been hearing lots of people tell you that you need to niche in your business in order to find more success in your marketing and find it easier to attract clients? Then yes, you'd be right. But today I'm going to share with you quite a different perspective on what niching means and how you can have a lovely specific niche, even if you're multi-passionate, even if you have many different talents and skills that you want to utilize in your business. Well, I'm going to share with you a different way of looking at niching that means you can do that. Amazing, right? So I bet you can't wait to hear this one. Stay tuned. This episode is coming right up. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Today, we're going to dive right into the topic of how you can possibly define a niche when you're multi-passionate, when you've got so many things that you love, so many things that you're good at, and then people say, oh, you need to niche down to be successful in business. So what do you do then? Now, before I dive in, I have had beautiful reviews being sent in by listeners to the podcast, and I have one that I just wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much, Julie, from Your Expert Guest, for sharing this review. She says, Jessica is a wonderful guide for female business owners. Discovered Jessica's show and love learning from her incredible experience building multi-million-dollar brands and hearing the stories of her guests running successful businesses. Her accent is a bonus delight. Well, thank you so much, Julie. I'm glad that you like my accent, that you can understand me. That's a good thing. And maybe that is a bit fun and a bit different for you. So thank you so much for taking the time just to share a few words and pop a review in for the podcast, because it helps me to share the love, to share the podcast, to help more people discover it who potentially can gain and benefit from listening in. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So today's topic, niching, one of my absolute favorites and one of the challenges that I see so many people have, and I feel like this isn't answered so well in the sort of the mainstream posts that you see about niching, is, well, what do you do if you're multi-passionate, if you're multi-talented? It's easy when there's just kind of one thing that you're doing. It's like defining your niche, super easy. But what do you do when you've got many things that you do, many things and many people that you see that you can help? And it's like, well, they kind of all could use my help. So how do I possibly choose one? What if I choose the wrong one? What if I'm choosing a niche and I'm missing out on all of this opportunity because there's people outside of it that I can help? What if I'm choosing one and it's not the right one and I've made a great big giant mistake and, oh my goodness, then the world will end, my business will disappear. These are kind of the thoughts that, no joking, they are going on in your head, and it's absolutely normal to have them. It's very normal to be thinking those things. In fact, your logical brain tells you if you make yourself available to more people, as in if you have a broader scope and a broader niche, then surely you're going to attract more people or more different types of people. That's logical. It does make sense, yet that is the exact opposite of what actually happens in business. And, let's not go comparing our businesses to, like your bank or a business of that scale or that type, because unless you are a big national bank, and I'm sure that if you're listening to this podcast, then you're not, you're not comparing apples with apples. So you don't look at your bank and say, well, they have products for all different types of people, all humans, old, young, every industry, all sorts of things, and look how successful they are. This same logic does not apply to your business as an entrepreneur, as a small business, a service provider. If it is primarily you with maybe a small team or some support helping you deliver, then you're not the same. You're not the same type of business as your bank or as other examples that you might see out there in the corporate world of companies that serve a great big range of people. Yes, they do exist. Many of them did not start off with such a huge range. They've evolved over a very, very long period of time. And, one of the kind of rules or principles, I won't say it's a rule, it's more of like a principle that is a principle because it's true, is that the newer your business or the slower it's growing, the more you need to get specific and niche, I'll say niche up. But niching actually doesn't mean getting smaller. It just means being more specific. So specificity is actually in our language as opposed to something where you're cutting off people. It's getting much more specific about exactly what you do and who you do it for. But that doesn't necessarily need to mean that it's less or smaller. You see, the trouble is that when we're trying to include and be super inclusive and not cancel anyone out and be there for everybody, our language gets very vague. It becomes broad in language, which means that people don't resonate as strongly with it as we do when it's super specific. If you have a coaching business, for example, and somebody says, I help coaches to blah, blah, blah. You straight away, your subconscious mind goes, bing, coach, I'm a coach. This means this is relevant for me. You're already ready to hear the next piece. Now, they might say, something that's not relevant for you or not relevant right now. Like they might say, I help coaches build a WordPress website. Now, if you're already on Kajabi and that's your website platform and you know that that's where you're building your business, you've picked up your interest straight away with coach, and then they've said WordPress and you've gone, oh no, not relevant for me, and it's gone down again. That's absolutely fine because that person's service offering isn't relevant for you. It's not right. So therefore you don't actually fall into their target market. But the specificity, it works. Why? Because someone doesn't need to think about it. They're not needing to sit there and think, well, hang on a minute, am I a coach or aren't I a coach? They're thinking, I know I'm a coach, right? So you're using that word, it's specific. Now you can go more specific than coach. You could say life coach, fitness coach, business coach, whatever different type of coach that you might work with, and you might specialize in a certain area, which means that you're noticing that there is a difference between different types of coaching businesses and that you might service one type because your particular offering might be really well designed for them. Like I'm sure that people who service fitness coaches have something that's super specific to the fitness industry that's not going to be the same or be relevant for somebody who owns a business coaching business. So you can see where specificity really does matter. It makes a huge, huge difference. And what I started this episode to talk to you about is that when you're multi-passionate and you have lots of things that you can do, niching doesn't mean that you have to just choose one and throw it all away. What it can mean, and something that I have helped quite a few of my clients do, is look at the things that they do, look at the combination of them, and what does that actually create? Because when you come from a place of creating your niche, and it might be something that maybe no one else is even doing, it might be something that's unique and specific to you. But when you come from a place of actually creating it, of being in it and having that difference that you can bring because you've combined your different skills into that, that is a place of so much more authority, so much more power than simply selecting a niche that's probably not super specific, because if it's one that you're selecting that other people have created or other people are in, then it's definitely out there already. It's not specific enough because you haven't added in the you factor. So you can see that, for example, I'll give you an example. Why not tell a story? So I have a client, and her skills and expertise are in quite a few different areas that, they're related, but they're different. For example, she is a Reiki master. She's also a breathwork facilitator. She's a yoga instructor. She's qualified functional nutritionist. She's also life coach and mindset coach. She has so many different skills. And when we first met, she was kind of trying to figure out, how do I even start this business when I've got all these different service offerings, different expertise, and each one of them could be a service that she's selling. But then she was getting confused. Well, how do I market that? Who am I speaking to? How do I even start talking about these things? Which one do I talk about? You can see that it's so complicated. Even though she had all these different potential things that she could do, it becomes very difficult to market that for your business and actually to attract any clients at all, because in trying to market all of that, you're really marketing none of it very well at all. You end up getting broad and general in your messaging, and people aren't seeing themselves in what it is that you have to offer. So my beautiful client, I said to her, well, what if you combine all of these things? What would that look like? What is that? What would you call it? Is that even a thing? Do you have an ideal client who would actually leverage all of your offerings? Can we bring it into something as one? And that was a major turning point for her. She figured out, sitting down, like, yes, I can bring these things in together. What does that look like? So then she went through the process of actually figuring out, what would that look like as a service offering? What's she going to call it? How does she present that out to the market? But the thing is, now it is one thing. It's something that she owns. It's specific, very specific, because instead of trying to sell a whole lot of separate things, she's actually brought it into one connected, aligned offering. That's exactly for the type of person who she is best for, right? The person that she can serve at her highest value, who can leverage her amazing talents and skills, is that exact person. And that is what I mean by niche. When you're multi-passionate, it doesn't have to mean niching down, it can mean niching up. Being able to encompass your beautiful passions and skills and still be specific, because niching means being specific. When you're specific, that is what creates clarity. It's really hard otherwise. And let me give you an example. If you heard somebody say the words like, he made me sad, your brain instantly goes somewhere. It's like it creates some meaning from it. You might be thinking, well, what is it? What did they make you sad about? You straight away probably thinking, oh, there's all these terrible things. But then when you delve a bit further and get more specific, it was like, he made me sad when he suggested that we watch this movie. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's a movie. Does it make you sad? Yeah, that's okay. That's not a big deal. But our brain had instantly gone probably to a whole lot of scenarios of like, oh my God, there's something huge going on in their life, and they've broken apart in their relationship or whatever it was. Without the specificity, you actually don't know what the situation is. And that's why being so specific is so beneficial. It's why when you're specific, people can understand what it is that you're actually trying to communicate to them. And you can be on the same page. Without the specificity, their brain is off down some other tangent. It's taking meaning that you didn't actually provide, that's not even there, because it was lacking specificity. So this is why this piece is actually like one of the most important pieces of your entire marketing strategy. It's what inside Business Jam, I've got a whole framework around, getting specific with your niche, how you can process through your different skills, expertise, your passions, figure out what ones are actually part of your business, what ones are not. There might be some that are, hey, that's a hobby. That's wonderful that you're passionate about that. But, not everything that you're passionate about actually has to be a business or be part of your business. They might just be part of you as a beautiful, multifaceted, very energetic and lively person. You might have many, many interests, many passions in life, but they aren't necessarily all part of your business. So, really the first step is making that distinction between passions of life and hobbies and your business. But even within a business, I struggled with this one myself when I started this one, because coming in thinking, right, I'm going to coach people on their marketing strategy. There was a lot of different ways I could have gone. There was different types of businesses I could have worked with, different aspects of marketing that I could have specialized in. There were so many different components, and I could have gone deep and specific into one. What I chose was to actually niche up and actually look at how to help people combine their strategy, the pieces of their strategy, so that it all functions together as one. So I went to a bigger picture, a higher view on the strategy, and that's where I've specialized in, as opposed to looking at one piece of a strategy, which is what some people do. They dive down into one of the different little elements and get specific on that. That's fine. We all have different specializations. I'm a big picture person. So for me, the specialization at the 20,000 foot view of your business is where I love to be. That is where I live. That helps me to break down something that's big for other people and make it feel really simple. It's like, how can, I can look at a business and I can intuitively see why it's not working out the way that they want it to, or how to help them to adjust to reach their vision. And that's something that comes very natural to me. That is where I have that intuition, that vision, those skills at looking at the strategy that they're deploying, and then being able to see, well, where do we need to dive into the detail? Which elements do we need to look at and realign in order to create that outcome? And so that's really where I like to be. That's my specialization, right? That's specific. I'm going to help you create the strategy for your business, your life, the outcome that you want, with the different pieces that are aligned and connected and working. That is the specific description of what I do. It's not how to do your social media. It's not how to do your email marketing, because all of those play a part in it, but none of them actually are the cause of the outcome. You might improve your business through getting better at your email marketing, but your email marketing is not the entire cause of your whole business outcome. It's something that assists it. So where I sit is at that upper layer, and then there's so many different people who specialize in every aspect of the delivery, every tactical part of delivering your strategy. So how do you find your niche when you're multi-passionate? Well, the answer is within you. Yes, there are so many questions that we can use to help you uncover that if you're feeling like you're stuck. But I'm hoping that today's episode has shone a bit of a light on that for you. Maybe it's helped you to see that it's okay to not just pick one thing, and you don't need to stop repelling this idea of niching, or like people say you need to niche. That doesn't mean that you need to just pick one of the things and throw everything else away. In fact, choosing one thing may be a combination of some of your amazing talents and skills, and in combining them together, you're creating one thing, which is exciting. You can still have the one thing and have the many things. So you see, it doesn't have to be either or, it can be an and. Love it, right? Breaking down all of the rules, getting specific through creating something that is unique, through creating something that is, 100% you, and where you thrive, where your highest value is, well, that is where you're going to be the most successful, because you're able to operate at your highest value. So have I left any stone uncovered? There's so much that we can talk about with this. I often spend a good couple of weeks with my Business Jam clients, helping them work through their niche, because there are a lot of fears. One of the fears, actually, let's talk about for a moment is, what if I choose the wrong one? What if I choose something that actually just bombs and it dives? And you might be thinking right now, well, if I choose something that no one else is doing, there's no proof out there. How do I prove the concept? How do I prove that it's going to work? Good questions. That is your, logical brain working for you to try to keep you really safe. And the answer is, look, if there are people buying those services, even if it's not specifically exact with how you're going to offer it, if there are people buying those things, then yes, you have something that people will buy. And especially if you can see people who have a need, they're where they are, you know that you can get them to the destination they want to get to. And you absolutely can see how your specific way can get them there, then you have something. It's not that you're choosing something that's not going to work. It's actually probably, if you've already done this and it's not working, then it's down to how you're communicating it so that they're seeing it and that you're not trying to convince them of something that they don't want, right? I can see that's a real trap that a lot of coaches fall into. Even service providers often trying to convince people of something that they don't already want and wonder why they're not buying it. Well, hey, if you came along and said to me, hey, I've got the best pair of Crocs, I really think you should buy these. Well, it doesn't really matter how wonderful they are and whether they've got glitter in them or whatever, but I'm not buying your Crocs. They're not something that I want. So it's the same with your clients. If you're trying to offer them something they don't actually want, it's no great surprise why they're not buying it. No matter if you've got the best argument about why they need it, they're still not going to buy it because they're not seeing it as something that they want, right? We only buy things that we want. That is just a principle of human behavior. And it doesn't matter if I'm talking about a consumer buying something or a business buying something, there's still people in the business that make the decision. So it's exactly the same psychology that works whether you're selling B2C or B2B. You still, the person who's in charge of that buying decision, still needs to have a want of the thing it is that you're selling. And so that's really at the absolute core. So what if you choose the wrong one? Well, I think that here is what we can look at. Think about any niche, maybe the niche you're in right now, maybe one that you're considering. Are there people within that niche or within a related niche? Because I know that I just said you can create your own one. So, think about one that you relate to or that you can see. Are there people within it who are really successful and people in it who are not? So it's not the niche that is more profitable or more successful or not. It's actually the person. It's the way that they're communicating their value. It's the way that they're connecting with their potential clients and customers. And it's often in the service offering itself. Something that so many people have, not missed, but glossed over, I'd say, or not really understood just how critical it is to have the service offering that's aligned to the client that you're trying to connect with, that you want them to buy. What I've seen, and this is, so many times over and over again, is somebody has a target market over here. They know what that is. They've got it defined. They have a defined niche, and they've got a service offering over here. And there's a disconnect between them. The service offering is not designed for the people who they're wanting to buy from. Now, you might think, well, that sounds crazy. Who would do that? Well, it might sound crazy that it's not aligned. And you might be thinking, well, I haven't done that. But it's really interesting how often this happens. And the reason why it happens so often is because people tend to create service offerings based on what they see others in their area offering. So they're basing their services on what their competitors are doing, and yet they're defining what their target market is and who they want to sell to. And so they've gone off in two different directions and done these things singularly without combining or aligning it. And just the beautiful thing that happens when you align these two is, guess what? You've got it something that the people you're marketing to actually want, and it's aligned to them. It's a no-brainer for them. So if it's not working, it's probably not that it's not that the niche is the wrong niche. It's not that you're in the wrong niche and you need to pivot and go and do something else. It's a misalignment. So there's a lack of communication happening, and often there's a misalignment in your service offering. And these are the things that we really break down and pack down inside Business Jam. But just to give you that clue that if that's you and you're noticing, well, why is this not selling? Why are people not buying? I know that I'm connecting to the right people. Then they are the two major reasons why. So my episode on niching has gone off down a big tangent there, but I hope that's been useful and helpful for you, because I just love to talk about this stuff. It's kind of like my passion, obviously, because it's what I do. But anyway, I hope that has been a lot of use for you today and that you've enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you if you've got some questions about, your niche. If you're like, well, I've got these different things, can they even possibly combine to make something? Well, come and ask. Come and connect with me. I'm over on Instagram. I hang out there. I am going to be doing some chats over coffee, once a week, a live chat. So you're going to be more than welcome to join me on that and come and engage, come and hang out. You can ask a question. I can answer it for you live, which will be loads of fun. So I invite you to come and do that. Come and hang out with me on Instagram. I'm at jessica.osborne. My name is spelled differently to usual. And I know that if you're listening to this right now, you're probably not seeing it, but Osborne does not have an E on the end, and it doesn't have a U either. It's just Osborne. And Jessica is spelled in the usual way. So if you come and find me at Instagram, you can join in on one of my live coffee chats. So we're just going to have a bit of a gas bag about what's going on in the marketing world, the business world, and you can dive in and ask me some questions. I am more than happy to answer them for you and give you some, maybe a bit of coaching around it. Why not? Anyway, that's it from me today. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on She's the Business.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of She's the Business podcast. I hope that you've been enjoying it as much as I have in creating the content to bring to you. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your presence and your attention. Now, if you love the podcast, or maybe you just loved today's episode, then I would absolutely appreciate it if you would go to Apple Podcasts, scroll down, hit the 5 stars, and then leave me a short review about what it was that you really enjoyed in this episode, or maybe in the podcast overall. And when I receive those reviews, then I love to give those reviewers a shout out on my future podcast episodes. So you never know, you may hear your name getting a shout out in a future episode if you do that. So thank you once again for your time, and I'll see you next time on She's the Business.